Hi, I'm Matthew Christopher and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been about a month since I last spoke to you on my channel, and some amazing things have happened in that intervening time. I see that over 50,000 people have viewed my videos, and that's a very humbling experience for me. I never thought that I would ever get that reach. Um, I'm really quite just a simple person with a clear message. I hope that my experience as a former Jehovah's witness has been certainly detrimental, and what I have seen over the years since exiting Jehovah's Witnesses has really reinforced that point. I want to say thank you to the overwhelming support that I have received from those over 50,000 viewers. I really appreciate your words of advice, and I try to take it certainly on board. What I would also like to say in the intervening time is that many in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community have suffered tremendous loss on a personal level, with family members dying, whether it's those through cancer or even suicide. And I want to say that I hope that in a very small way that my videos also encourage you, that you keep in mind that not only have we suffered, but we have survived. This video is dedicated to you. You see, in many ways, as former Jehovah's Witnesses, we have been forced to live our lives. Jehovah's Witnesses wish to tell people that this life that we have now is not worth living. Their publications and their scaremongering is one to, if possible, to cripple one with fear and make one believe that life now is not the real life, that there is some other period of time in which we will have a true life and a true experience of what it means to be alive. Nothing could be further from the truth. I notice, as I have said in one of my previous videos, that Watchtower is an opportunist. It lives in the darkness as if it were some form of religious bat that only comes out when it's dark. What we've seen with the horrendous developments in the Ukraine is that the Jehovah's Witnesses have made much of this human catastrophe as if this was foretold in Bible prophecy. It's not. And what has actually happened is people right around the world have shown their complete disgust to the atrocities that are being committed, especially to the civilian population. The point is this, that Jehovah's Witnesses do not have a message of hope and of love, rather one of fear and of delayed expectations for when their God will smite the world that is in opposition to the thought processes of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. I noticed that Jehovah's Witnesses in recent broadcast have tried to say that only they are the ones that in these times of distress from the Ukraine are the only ones showing true love. As I've mentioned before, Jehovah's Witnesses do not ever miss the opportunity to lay the boot into other religions. I noticed on their website, jw.org, they then put to air uh, the, their hatred, I should say, for in this case, the Orthodox Church, whether it is that coming from Ukraine or from Russia. And there they plaster the pictures of the patriarchs of those of that faith and try to prove that they are separate from the world. This is nothing more than a sickening and cowardly attack on people's faith when they need it. And the fact of the matter is that the Orthodox Church is not responsible for the war in Ukraine. But this is the point, is that those faithful Jehovah's Witnesses, how are they going to be treated by people who realise that this group of men in New York think it's an appropriate time for them to put the boot into their faith? All it will do, as has always been the case, is stir hatred up towards Jehovah's Witnesses, to make them out to be people that stir the pot when that is not the case. There's not the case that apparent or true Christians, I should say, should be doing things like that. But the cabal of men in New York can't help themselves. For them, the collateral damage of its rank and file are simply just cannon fodder for the bigger picture of shaking the tree. And as I mentioned before, that they look for an opportunity to destabilise people's faith. Now, the issue is now that Jehovah's Witnesses find themselves in an incredibly difficult circumstance. On one part of the ledger, they have embedded themselves in with any NGO or government organisation that will further and entrench them into the laws and the constitutions of countries. But yet, they still, in their own way, seek to divide the community. I think one thing that's going to come out from the Ukraine is that people all around the world are absolutely sick to death of the wanton destruction of lives, of hope, of heritage, whether it's a built environment, whether it's monuments, landmarks, things that mean something in a very deep and spiritual way to the people of particular countries. There is a zero tolerance for those who preach in any way that their way is supreme, and anyone that disagrees with them is deserving of death. I believe that ultimately love will conquer, and in actual fact, this terrible situation in the Ukraine will, rather than escalate into World War III and Armageddon, in actual fact, it will be a marvellous opportunity for humanity to stop and reflect and realise that we are all interconnected. Rather than former Jehovah's Witnesses being those who seek to persecute Jehovah's Witnesses, it's actually the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses that throw the rank and file under the bus. The examples that Jehovah's Witnesses have of disaffected people that could not get their lives in order and then becoming Jehovah's Witnesses and living their best life ever, while on the surface is more than commendable, the reality is that if those people had have, even for one moment, being able to gain the resources for independent thinking and having independent life, taking for themselves the things that they needed for support, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, they may not have ever answered the call of Jehovah's Witnesses. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses are an aberration. They are people that certainly came out from distress. When Judge Rutherford took over the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society after the death of the first president, CTR, he set about to do three things. Number one, to centralise all control to himself. Secondly, to stamp out any independent thinking. And thirdly, to turn this into a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Jehovah's Witnesses have prided themselves on their discipline, but I'll put it to you this way. If you're under coercion and threat that you or your family will soon die at Armageddon, is this discipline because it's coming from the individual's heart, or is it because it's the only option that is available? Many people who have left Jehovah's Witnesses still find it extremely difficult after decades to fully assimilate their lives back into the non-Jehovah's Witness world. They feel that they don't belong in either group, and that's more than understandable. But may I make this suggestion, is while Jehovah's Witnesses have longed for the time when humanity will be exterminated and that only effectively Jehovah's Witnesses will remain, and those who are to come back in their idea of the resurrection are to be reformed and are to become Jehovah's Witnesses, I wonder whether we could view it this way. Is the world that Jehovah's Witnesses believe is soon ending is actually far from it. Humanity, with technology that we have today, which is unimaginable even in the time of Judge Rutherford, humanity is so connected, and one of the things that we are able to do is use modern technology for people of goodwill and good conscience to be able to speak to each other. There's been a revolution when it comes to people to be able to ask why, not just how, but why. Why must I do what I am told, and what benefit is it to me? I find that if we are able to understand that the resources that we need are actually within us, we know what ultimately is right for us. We know what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And if for any moment in our lives we feel that we are unable to cope, the question really is that who are we coping for? I'd like to leave this point with you. The series of videos that I have done have been to at least create conversation, whether it is Bible prophecy put forward by Jehovah's Witnesses with bold and bold overstatements, I should say, that never came true, or to its absolute lack of empathy for those who believed hook, line and sinker only to have their lives destroyed. Whether it is policies that Jehovah's Witnesses had that controlled every aspect of a person's life, from their education, the person they married, their sex lives, and even the idea of whether one would have children or not. This is the point. If we are able to be our own governing bodies, where we are able to set our own rules and our own principles on all the subjects that I mentioned, is it possible that we could actually do better than the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses? And I think the answer is yes. As I said when I started off in this conversation today, there's been tremendous tragedies in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community as I speak. But what I do believe is that we are resilient because we are open and transparent in what we've gone through. The experience of loss and suffering is not unique to the diaspora of former Jehovah's Witnesses. It is found in many other walks of life. But one thing is, there is very few people that have experienced an organisation that is so embedded with government. In actual fact, its very existence depends largely on its recognition as a recognised religion and as a charity. The rivers of gold which it received from its literature was never taxed, and that enabled them to be able to invest and to continue on their merry way. You see, for all of their cries of independence from the wicked world, it is actually completely attached to the matrix. I say this to my friends and family who, over the time that I haven't been on, I say thank you very much once again for your love and support. This video really is to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for your continued support, and for the over 50,000 people who have watched my videos. I am very grateful. What I do think is that very soon, there will be another group of activists, maybe someone like you that's watching this today, that will have a story to tell that will excite another generation of people to make the decision to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. That leaving the four walls of the kingdom hall does not mean death and destruction and a life of misery, but yet one of true hope and of amazing opportunities. The ex-Jehovah's Witness community is growing at an incredible rate. And as I see online, there is now hundreds of thousands of people that are involved in online forums. This is an incredible thing. It was only a few years ago where there was only a few compared to where we are today. That trickle is now a stream. The fact is this, that we have found our voice. And for all of the propaganda of Jehovah's Witnesses and what they may or may not say about us, the fact is this, there is now more of us than what there is of them. I hope that you find my videos encouraging, and I certainly find your comments very encouraging, and I hope that as I produce more of my videos, they'll be of some benefit to you. I'm Matt Christopher, and thank you for being my friends.